Hello, my friends, and welcome to Carpo's channel. Let's get right to it. Excuse me. Took a toke. Yes, I'm a cannabis consumer and connoisseur, and I found over the years that while it can help me think sometimes, it can do the opposite at other times. But that's a topic for another time. Today we're going to talk about God. And it's funny because I debated starting this video like an hour ago, and I was like, no, went on a walk with my family. We were doing some running around with the dog at the park, and it got dark out. It's a beautiful evening. Came back, and I thought, I'd like to do a live stream, but I really don't want to dedicate myself to that much time. But I did want to talk for a moment, and I decided I'd just make a video instead. So I looked at the clock, and it said 11:11, and I thought, ooh, spiritual. It must be a sign. It's time to do it. And where do I start? Talking about God, the term, quote, God, whether it's capital or lowercase g, I've always been partial to the lowercase g because God to me is everything and nothing. It is the all, is kind of the way that many ancient philosophers thought of God as the all. And I've read several different books and stories and legends and myths and religions pertaining to the creation of man and the creation of everything, and it's turtles all the way down. I mean, it's there's no answer. The answer to how we exist and why we exist is so far out of the realm of human understanding that humans who claim to comprehend it are just laughably ridiculous to me. And this, in all my honesty, I try to be. I'm very understanding that human beings are fallible, that we're willing to believe things that aren't true. But honestly, some of the most ridiculous people are people like Jerry Falwell, I think is his name, or Kenneth Copeland. These extreme, people who own 2 private jets, that kind of shit. Billionaire prosperity gospel is what they preach. And they're televangelists, people like that. But there's another side to it, the spiritual bullshit gurus who claim that they can sell you some sort of spiritual enlightenment and truth. And I've been through enough of this to kind of come to the beginning question I would have, the riddle, the discussion I wanted to ask, which is, if a person were to walk in the woods for 4 hours a day with no one to teach them about their environment, but just observation, and another person were to sit in a room and read a Bible for 4 hours a day, or let's just say they were both doing it for their whole waking hours, who's going to be better equipped to handle the world around them? And this comes down to whether or not you go outside, I guess, but it's the deeper question of the reason why the person who reads the Bible will be less informed on the world is because there's no one to decipher it for him and tell him what it means or should mean according to their particular sect. When you're out in nature, it tells you what's real. There's no other way to take it. You can't come back to camp and say, oh, I saw a bear doing this, and I saw a bear doing that also. Okay, well, we must agree that animals do this. That's kind of the root of science, and also the basic root of understanding the world around us and building a full picture, or as full as we can, of the environment that we inhabit. Trying to understand why animals do what they do, why plants do what they do, and how far we've come with science, and how religion itself sits outside of science a little bit, in the sense that it believes it already has the answers, whereas science is derived from religious sects wanting to understand their own roots and also wanting to understand the world better. people realized no matter how many times they asked God to tell them which foods to eat, sometimes they were better off doing actual research on these plants. How do they react? How do they taste? Doing experiments with smaller amounts and building your way up and finding toxicity. We really take for granted all the things that we've learned up to this point. So when a person takes psychedelics today, they're not just taking a mushroom, for example. They're taking a psychedelic mushroom while equipped with however much knowledge they've obtained from this existence. And the more knowledge you have to draw on, the more you can understand the root of existence, I guess. And this is very impossible to explain, but that's my intro to the discussion of the time I met God and what God told me. Or I was going to say what she told me. And then I was like, no, what it told me. Because God is not a he or a she. The male-female duality, positive, negative kind of delusion or conundrum. It's based in human experience, not universal experience. There are no male and female stars. These are things that we've created. We want to understand ourselves so badly that we realize many creatures on Earth mate, male and female, and there's that unity. There's the yin and yang, the beauty of the yin and yang in motion with a little bit of each in each. That's what the dot is all about. And how, I guess, when we want to understand where we come from, we want to understand what a God would want if there's a God. And we shouldn't be shy to talk about this. I know that there are already people typing their version of God in the comments section, right? People who believe that I may be dismissing what God is. They'll say, well, God is, Allah, or God is a Christian God, or God is this or that, or the spaghetti monster. And to me, it really doesn't matter. You can call God whatever you want. To me, God is the all. God is all of existence. But when I met God, because I know that's the main point of the discussion here and what I came to talk about, it was just one of many times. And when people hear that, and when they see the title, they'll probably assume that either A, I have a delusion of grandeur and I was tripping too hard, or B, they'll understand where I'm coming from and realize that God is everywhere. Therefore, meeting God is not really anything surprising. I'm not saying I've done anything you haven't done. We've all had our encounters. This particular encounter was one of many where I was on a very, 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 very high dose of mushrooms, and I was at this very peak experience where I saw and felt in my heart and my soul this experience that I cannot explain in words. And I really believe that it comes down to, in many different religions, the idea that you can never see God, if you will, because of the intensity of seeing that would devastate you, because it's too much for your mind to grasp. But the more you look into all the different belief systems and experience things yourself, the more you realize that's true. And that it's all a riddle. It's all a joke. It's not about finding answers. Because sending a human into this world and saying you should find your life purpose, and this is an important one. A lot of people want to find their path and their purpose. And I call it bullshit. It's the riddle of purpose. It's like sending kids into a office to do math equations or trigonometry or solve some scientific, equation and expecting them to figure it out. The truth is, 1 out of a million kids might do it. Just like 1 out of a million people on Earth might actually have some sort of an enlightenment they really can't share. But we can't know who's for real and who's delusional, or if every single person who believes they understand God or has had an experience has. Like, it's really hard for us as individuals to draw conclusions on anything even if we have been there. And therefore, I know some people might not get where I'm coming from, but, God really is a riddle. Zen gets very close to that. It's therefore a riddle is like a joke, in a way. And understanding this is important, I think, for all people, because it's not a bad thing. It's the idea that, you have no need to believe in a spiritual creature that dominates your life that is angry or hostile toward you. I think it's unhealthy, personally. I mean, we're born into a hostile world already. And to believe and teach others that there are hostile, invisible beings watching us makes things even worse, I've got to say. A lot worse. So, being authentic, I think, is the key. And I want to say this is the second half here. I really believe this is one of the most difficult things for us to do. Being authentic is one of the hardest things I've done in so many ways, but also the most rewarding. It's like when you go out and you do a really long hike, or you start a really long project and you finally finish that project. It's so satisfying to finish, but the work was so long. And it's the same way to try to find yourself. Instead of finding your life purpose or your path, you realize that you are you and find out what you want to do. That's what I meant, like when I was talking about selfishness the other day in a separate video. I meant finding the things you really want to do and you're passionate about, and embracing that, whatever it might be, and getting the most out of that. But it is so much easier to be a lemming. I mean, people are much more willing to follow others than I ever thought before. I realized how desperate people are. Because it's really, being yourself is not very popular. And it makes it very difficult to have discussions with people who believe that you want to follow some ideal, whether it be left or right politics, or a certain musical taste, or a certain interest in, whatever it might be. I mean, there are so many discussions going on in society right now. It's almost like it's falling apart with all this nonsense, and we're forgetting the big picture. Like I said, how much more would you gain walking through the woods for 12 hours a day and making those connections than you would, trying to understand the world through books, in the comparison of religion to existence and nature and experience. God is all, and also an idea of existence itself. On a final note about finding yourself, when I was talking about, people saying they want to find out who they are and find out their life path, this is only all my opinion, of course. Everybody is subjective to their own opinion. But it's not about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. And that takes work. And a lot of people don't want to create themselves. I believe we should do things in our life that we can be proud of, and things we can feel honorable about, like they were created properly, and things that help the world and benefit ourselves and our families and others. The more we take care of ourselves and those around us that we love, the better off we are, and therefore the more we want to help others. It radiates outward. This connection with other people, which you will see sometimes at festivals and what people call hippies, there is a connection there, as brutal as hippies can be sometimes, and that's another topic I'm going to talk about in a future video, that hippies are extremely violent people. There's another side to that. There's this extreme bonding and connection with strangers that we all desire in our lives. A lot of people just want a fucking hug. That's it. That's all they want, is a hug. It's so simple. And I've seen it. The looks on people's faces when they're just being hostile and somebody's like, dude, just, give it up. I know some people want to play the tough guy or tough girl, but the fact is we're all kind of mushy inside. And I think we all care about one another a hell of a lot more than we let on. And so when we talk about topics like God and beliefs and religion, I think if we really wanted to believe in the existence of some sort of a God or omnipotent being, we would hope, at least I would hope, that it would be a kind being. And therefore, I'm more likely to believe that we're all doing our best, doing the best we can. Trying to find ourselves means trying to create ourselves, put in the best effort we can. Seems like by the time you're born, you're already dying, right? You're in your 20s, you finally decide don't want to do what you went to college for. Then you do something else for a while, then maybe you mess up your back and you can't do the work anymore like I did. Then you get back into that work. We go through many phases in life. So never give up. Just live that life the best you can. Consciousness is a gift for all of us. And use it to create things. Because we ultimately are all creators. And that brings me back to God. A lot of people talk about God being the creator. We know a lot about space. We know a lot about the galaxy we live in, but we still don't have a clue about the full existence. The Big Bang Theory has been proven to be pretty full of holes at this point, and we're doing the best we can as these pathetic little monkey beings on Earth trying to understand the world that we live in, and it's beautiful, but at the same time it's pretty absurd. And ultimately all we want is just a little bit of hope. Whether it's a scientist with beakers trying to figure out, which chemicals are going to save our lives, or which new drugs are going to lengthen our existence, or it's, some religious guru preaching that you'll have eternal existence after death. Ultimately, we just want to live a good life now. And I think we can all agree on that. That's the most important thing right now. To live a good life now. So embrace the riddle, embrace the existence that is complicated, and take a walk in the woods. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all next time. I was going to make this a podcast, but I ended up just not having batteries for my little recorder. And yeah, I'm starting to look a little stoned. Sorry, it's almost midnight, and it's Saturday on the 4th of July weekend. So I'll talk to y'all next time, and let me know what you think. Is God just an idea? Is God a being? Is God a personal God? Or is God just, honestly, I'm not interested in anybody else's version for me to believe. I have pretty much gone through all the different avenues of what I believe God is and came to my own conclusions. But that also involves being open and receptive to everyone else's beliefs. And if we all could just do that and realize that a belief doesn't define us as moral or immoral people, then we'd be a happier world. So I'll talk to you next time. Be well. Give somebody a hug, and talk to you next time. If you don't check out the podcast, it's called 15-Minute Free Thinking, and it's on all podcast platforms, but this is one of the first episodes I haven't uploaded on 15-Minute Free Thinking. I'm just keeping it on my YouTube channel because I don't have my voice recorder set up because I don't have any batteries. Peace.